I grew up keeping the Sabbath, and honestly, I hated it. Not because I hated God, not because I hated rest, but because the Sabbath that I inherited felt less like freedom and more like religious pressure. And if you've ever felt that, this video is for you. Some of my earliest memories about the Sabbath are at my grandparents' house in Indiana. We'd go to church, come home, eat a big family meal, and then all of the adults would go and take naps. Now, think about this from a kid's perspective. We just spent hours sitting still in church. We wanted to go outside. We wanted to play baseball. We wanted to be kids. But it was Sabbath, and the only thing we were allowed to do was religious activities, Bible games, Bible toys. Right? We had this game, Bible Pictionary, where you had to draw only pictures from the Bible. That was it for entertainment. And I swear, even though all the adults were sleeping, there was always at least that one who was just enough awake to make sure we didn't drift into anything we weren't supposed to do. Now, is this memory perfectly accurate? Probably not. Child memories are rarely that. But that's how the day felt to me. Not like rest, like restriction. And it didn't get any better as I became a teenager. You know how that day of rest started in my house? With a fight. Every single week. Nobody was ready when my dad wanted to leave for church. So voices got louder. I heard my own siblings saying how they hated God. They hated religion. And then we got in the car and we went to worship anyway. And I don't even remember that church. That's how insignificant it was to me. All I remember is watching the clock all afternoon, counting down the minutes until it was sundown, counting down the minutes until that day of rest was finally over. Now, let me be clear. This is not about attacking my family or about the church I grew up in. Most of those people were doing exactly what they believed faithfulness required. And that's actually the problem that I want to talk about today, because sincere people can hand you a version of the Sabbath that feels nothing like rest. So here's my number one complaint about how people talk about the Sabbath. I've had many deep conversations over the years with people who wanted to seriously keep the Sabbath, the day of rest. And those conversations always went in one of two directions. And if you've been part of them, you know what I'm about to say. Number one, prohibitions. What can't we do? What counts as work? Where's the line? Direction two, rituals. Light the candles. Say the blessings. Do what Orthodox Judaism does, because surely that's what faithful Sabbath keeping looks like. And you know what almost never comes up? The question that's never asked? What is restfulness? What does it actually mean to rest? Now think about that. The word Sabbath is about stopping. And stopping for the purpose of rest, recovery, to be revitalized as a human being. And we've managed to build entire theological debates around a day without ever asking the question, what is rest? And when I finally started asking that question, everything shifted for me. Because here's what I realized. You cannot define rest for someone else. Every one of those rules debates is an attempt to build one standard that applies to every believer everywhere. But rest doesn't work like that. What rest means for me today is different from what rest meant for me 5 years ago. And what it means for me 5 years from now is going to be different than today. The command says, you shall do no work. Okay, what's work? The Bible never defines it. And I'm going to propose to you that's not a flaw in the commandment, that's the design. And here's what I mean by that. I'm a knowledge worker. I sit at a computer all day. I get paid to make decisions and solve problems. So for me, rest actually means getting up, getting out, and moving around, and more than anything, taking a break from decision making. Even studying the Bible, which I love, can fire up the same parts of my brain that need a day off. I just swapped one problem-solving domain for another. But flip it around. If your job is physical and repetitive, sitting quietly with a Bible, a journal, and a cup of coffee might be the most restful thing in your world. The thing that drains me might be the thing that restores you. So any universal list of approved Sabbath activities is going to fail somebody. Now, before anyone panics, I'm not saying that the Sabbath has no boundaries, that anything goes. There is a difference between delight and indulgence. There is a difference between restoration and numbing yourself on that day. And you've got to be honest about what actually happens in your soul. But boundaries are supposed to serve your rest. The moment that they exist to force everyone into the same mold, they've stopped serving rest and started serving control. And this is where the Sabbath story gets really good. Israel didn't just learn the Sabbath in a classroom. They learned it in the wilderness, fresh out of Egypt. And Egypt was a system of produce. Nobody gets a day off in Egypt, because in Egypt, your value, your identity is what you can produce, what you can output. So before God ever wrote a commandment in stone, he taught it with bread. He sent manna and said, gather enough for your family. On the sixth day, gather double, because on the seventh day, nothing is coming. He was teaching former slaves something that slaves were never allowed to believe, that there's enough, that the world will keep on turning, that you are not a machine. And that's why the Sabbath is a gift. It's not a reward that you earn when you finish your task list. God doesn't say, get everything done and then you may rest. He says, stop, receive, and trust. One more thing, and this is the part I really want you to hear. Because being a public Bible teacher has taught me that you just can't please everyone. So don't make your rest dependent on the approval of your congregation, your community, or anyone in your house. What brings you rest is between you and our King. Because some people will always try to turn God's gift back into Pharaoh's system. They'll even quote scripture while they're doing it. But pressure, performance, fear, and control, that is not holiness. A whip is a whip, even when it's wrapped in a Bible verse. So here's my challenge to you this week. Stop asking only, what am I not allowed to do on the Sabbath? Start asking the question, what actually restores me? What helps me receive the rest that God is giving me? You're not a machine. You're not a slave. You're not God. You are a human being, not a human doing. And you are allowed to stop. If the Sabbath has ever felt more like pressure than rest, then I've got something for you. It's a free resource called Why You Can't Rest Assessment. And it's here to help you figure out what actually comes to the surface when you try to stop. Is it guilt, anxiety, control, scarcity, religious pressure? The link is in the description. And when you do that, you'll also get information on how to join in my upcoming live teaching, Why Sabbath Feels Like Work. I'd love to see you there.